Hi guys, it's Kino. Hi guys, it's Kino. Welcome to another video. So as you can see from the title, in today's video I want to talk about 5 things that could be blocking your manifestations. If you're new here, hello, my name is Kino. I normally make tarot pick-a-card readings on this YouTube channel, so if you're interested in that type of video, please feel free to check those out after you watch this one. I also make music, which is what you heard at the intro of this video, so I will link my music channel down below too if you want to check that out. But today, the topic is manifestation, and more specifically, what might be getting in your way as you're trying to manifest the things and the experiences that you want. So I do want to start with a bit of an intro, a little bit of a preface, just to talk about the universe and how and why manifestation works and how and why it might be blocked. If you do want to skip to just the 5 reasons, you can go to this time. But I would definitely encourage you to watch the intro. I would love to have you for the whole video, and I do think it will help to simplify the concept of manifestation a little bit. I really enjoyed putting this whole video together because as I'm writing down what I want to say, it helps me to solidify things that I've been trying to learn, and even to learn new things, have new little, have little epiphany moments, I think would be the right way to say it. So if you guys like the topic of manifestation and you want more videos on this topic, please do let me know. So the very first thing I wanted to talk about is the universe, because we have to address the huge role that the universe plays in manifesting what we want. So the universe is sometimes referred to as source energy or spirit, and basically it is infinite intelligence. It is infinite potential. It is energy that can express itself in any way, shape, or form. And when this energy with infinite potential passes through the filter of our subconscious mind, this is what creates the reality that we see in front of us. So it's this energy that can become anything. It passes through our subconscious and it rearranges itself so as to be a reflection of what is in our mind. So when we talk about conscious manifestation, this starts with recognizing this fact, recognizing that the universe has the potential to be anything. It can express itself in an infinite number of ways, and therefore can create any experience for us. And we also have to recognize that our current reality is a reflection of our current mind. So we can use this fact to our advantage to create our desired reality. Basically, we have the power to change the filter that the universe's infinite potential is passing through so that it will arrange itself differently in front of us. So when we are consciously manifesting something into our life, an opportunity, an experience, whatever it might be, we do so by focusing on what we want and having faith that it will come to us. The universe then starts to express itself differently so that it can match and come into alignment with what is in our mind. And if it can't align us right away, it will create a bridge of events that aligns us with that experience over time. An example of this would be if I'm lying in my bed in Canada in the middle of winter and I'm visualizing myself relaxing on a warm beach somewhere, obviously the universe cannot align me with my visualization right away. My subconscious mind just would not accept that if I suddenly appeared on a beach. So what the universe can do is it sees me over here and it sees my visualization over here, and it can create a bridge of events that over time will lead me to what I visualized. So I guess a good general rule, there are always exceptions, but I think a general rule would be that the greater the change is between where you currently are and what you're visualizing, the longer it might take for the universe to create that bridge of events, because naturally more needs to happen. But the wonderful thing about the universe is that it is infinitely intelligent. Its perspective is unlimited. It sees everything. So it knows the best bridge of events to create every time to get you to where you're visualizing. And if you let it, so if you hand your visualization over to the universe, it will work its magic for you. So a manifestation blockage is anything that impedes our focus on what we want, or in other words, anything that weakens our faith. Often in the manifestation community or in the spiritual community, we hear that in order to manifest what we want, we need to keep our vibration high. I personally don't really, I've never really resonated with the term vibration. I do think that it's technically accurate, because if you're to zoom in on anything close enough, I do think like everything is made of little vibrations, but I feel like maybe I just don't really like its application when it comes to manifestation. I think it's hard for me to conceptualize my thoughts and feelings as vibrations or frequencies. It's like, what does that mean? It's not very like straightforward to me. I don't know, the term vibration just...
Offend me, no. Irks me, yeah.
Do you guys know what I mean? Do you guys know what I mean? And like the idea of high frequencies and low frequencies, I just don't really... If low frequencies are bad, why is dubstep so good? And I also just think this idea that we need to stay high vibe all the time, it can be quite damaging and even counterproductive to our manifestation. Because I think things like shadow work and like taking the time to acknowledge our negativity and acknowledge our blockages and really sit with them and take the time to figure them out rather than just like ignoring them or steamrolling over them with positivity, I think this can be really healthy and really beneficial to manifesting better in the long term. I've been asked a few times before if having negative thoughts or like if being sad is going to get in the way of your manifestation, and the answer is no. Being sad or frustrated or angry or annoyed is not going to get in the way of your blessings. Of course, if you're like a generally negative person or you just all around have a bad attitude and that is the baseline that you're operating from, you may not be willing to take the necessary actions to make your manifestations happen. Or you may have, if you have a really bad attitude, you might even be unhappy and ungrateful even when your blessings do come to you. But if you are a generally positive person and you're just having a bad day or a bad week or whatever it might be, you will be just fine. Please don't ignore what your emotions are trying to tell you just because you feel like addressing them is gonna block your blessings. I promise it will be okay. And even just our little everyday worries, our little inner voice that is telling us, what if it goes wrong? What if it doesn't work out? I even think that is not enough to get in the way. I think that kind of negative thought, it's like junk food. Like, it's not gonna kill you, and we can have a little bit of that going through our heads every day and still be perfectly fine. And in fact, much like junk food and eating healthy, if you try to be perfect all the time, you will go crazy. So having a little bit of negativity and allowing yourself to be negative, I think it keeps you sane. I think it keeps you healthy. So be sad when you're sad, be angry when you're angry. Let yourself have those emotions and let them pass. So the next thing I want to mention, I really hope this intro doesn't get too long. What we manifest and what we don't manifest, it comes more so from our unconscious mind rather than our conscious mind. I made a visual of this in a video I did a while ago. I made this visual of how exactly the energy passes through our minds and manifests into reality. If you guys do want to see that, I will link it below. And if I figure out how to put, like, when you put the thing that people can click inside the video, if I figure out how to do that, I will do that. But otherwise, there will be a link. But basically, the subconscious mind and what it believes gets the final say in what we can manifest. But that being said, the conscious mind is very important because we can use our conscious mind to reshape our subconscious mind and our subconscious beliefs through repeated suggestion. If you can create a very vivid and detailed visualization of what you want, and you can have that imagined experience and you can sort of live it out in your mind's eye from a first-person perspective, you are in this way suggesting your desired reality to your subconscious mind. And through focus and repetition, your subconscious mind will accept this reality as real and help the universe project it outward into the world around you. This doesn't mean that you have to be thinking about what you want like 24 hours a day and you have to hold on to it really tight. unless that feels good to do so. Like if you want to visualize all day, go right ahead. But as long as you're uninterrupted in your focus when you're visualizing, you can think about your desired reality for a few minutes, like before you go to bed or after you wake up, or just throughout the day when you're daydreaming, whatever feels best to you. So how do you know after visualizing whether or not your subconscious has accepted this desired reality? It's important to pay attention to how you are feeling when you're doing your visualization. So if you feel really, really good when you're living out your dream reality, it's likely that your subconscious mind is accepting it. But if any time, like during your visualization or even after, if you're feeling like deflated or discouraged, or even if you're feeling silly, you know, sometimes you're imagining something and then you feel silly, like believing that could ever happen. If any of those feelings start to pop up, that could be a sign that your subconscious mind is not accepting what you're visualizing. So visualizing more frequently or for longer amounts of time, it can help this, as through repetition and through consistency, your subconscious mind might become more and more likely to accept it. But if you find that even more frequent visualization and even visualizing for a longer time is not helping you, which I think is the case for many people, then there might be something that is blocking your manifestation. You can think of this like your subconscious mind is a cup and you're trying to fill it with your desired reality. If the cup is intact, then you're all set. The more you pour into the cup, the more it's going to fill up. So the more you visualize, the more your subconscious mind believes it. But if there are little cracks in the cup, or even worse, if there's a big hole in the cup, then it doesn't matter how much you pour in, because eventually it's all just going to drain out. So this is not to discredit visualizing, because I think visualizing our desired reality can be a very powerful and enjoyable practice, but we have to make sure that our cup is intact. So without further ado, let's talk about what all these holes are. So the first thing that might be blocking your manifestation is impatience. This is a really big one, and I think it's a kind of sneaky one because it can be like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Your manifestation isn't blocked, but it's taking longer than you expected, and so you believe that it's not coming, you believe that it's not working. You see the problem. I do believe that a lot of our manifestations never come true because they take too long, or what we deem as too long, and we start to think that it's not coming and we give up on them. When we hand over our manifestation to the universe, it's the universe's job to find the best bridge of events to get us there. And we can think that we know how and when our manifestation should come to us, but this is nearly impossible for us to know because we are just a human with this very limited perspective, and we often can't know how certain developments or how certain paths are going to affect us as well as others. If there are other people involved in your manifestation, which more often than not there are, it could take longer because the chain of events that the universe is creating for you, it has to be accepted by their subconscious mind as well. So the universe kind of needs to take care of everybody's best interests and will generally find a path that is the most natural, meaning that nobody's really acting too out of character for too long. That's not to say it doesn't happen, because we've all had those weird moments of divine intervention where someone just acts perfectly in alignment and could be a little bit out of character. But generally the universe will not pick a path that has people behaving too out of character for too long or doing anything that they would resist. Since the universe is doing so much work behind the scenes and it's not necessarily visible to us, we do need to have complete faith that the universe is doing its job and working its magic for us. And when you do have complete faith, this is when you can truly be patient, because the passing time doesn't feel like a bad sign. The passing time is not proof that something isn't working, it's actually proof that the universe is working on something really amazing. And when you have complete faith and let go of how you think it should happen, these unexpected developments won't discourage you. You will just know that this is a part of everything. This is a part of the plan that the universe is orchestrating for us, and it's not the end. If your manifestation isn't coming, it's because it's not the end. It's like that quote, everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Even what we may perceive as failures are often actually helping to push us in the right direction. And I have personally found that the longer the journey is, the more elaborate and beautiful the plan is. If you think about it this way, this has helped me a lot. It's like, if something is taking a long time, this means that the universe cares about you so much that it has created this huge chain of events through space and time just to align you with your heart's desires. This huge plan. Can you imagine if the universe were as impatient as we are? It would hear our prayers and think, that takes too long. Too many things would need to line up. Why would I bother? But no, it immediately gets to work and starts lining everything up for us. It starts planning our run-ins with the people, places, opportunities that we need to run into to get you where you want to be. And I think a huge amount of the disappointment and the discomfort that comes throughout our journeys is largely because we don't trust in the universe's plan. And when I think about it, it's kind of sad. So let's all appreciate the universe more. I want to add too, this idea that there's so much that we don't know and that our perspective is so limited. You can use this idea to really liberate you, especially if you tend to have those negative thoughts like, there's no way that could happen, that's so unlikely, that's so unrealistic, blah, blah, blah. You can kind of talk back to yourself, like, says who? Who says this is unlikely? You? How can you know with your tiny perspective what is likely and what is unlikely? That's not for you to decide, that's for the universe to decide. The universe can do whatever it wants. It is infinite. Like, who are you to say this can't or won't happen? So you can rebut yourself in this way. How many inventions do we have now that at one point people scoffed at and said were impossible? I don't actually know how many. That was a rhetorical question. Even me, there have been times where I was sure something was impossible or something wouldn't happen because my knowledge was limited, or even because I was misinformed, only to find out that things like that happen all the time. So be careful what you deem as unlikely or impossible, because your subconscious is listening. So the second reason I want to talk about is contradicting beliefs, also known as limiting beliefs. I feel like this one is the most talked about in the manifestation community as a blockage, besides low frequencies and like negative thoughts and all that kind of stuff. Basically what contradicting belief or limiting belief, I'll probably use these interchangeably, but it's when you have a belief that does not allow for your desired reality to exist. And these beliefs can come from your own past experience, or they can also come from society. For example, somebody is trying to manifest being rich, being wealthy, but growing up they barely had enough to get by, and so this taught their subconscious mind that resources are scarce and that they will always be struggling to have enough. Or maybe growing up somebody was constantly ignored or even shamed when they expressed their desires, and so they learned that it's wrong to want things, it's selfish to want things, and as such they learned that they shouldn't want money, or that wanting to be rich somehow makes them evil. Or they could have grown up in a society that tells them that they have to work their fingers to the bone 24 hours a day, that they have to hustle harder than everybody else, and so their subconscious mind is always telling them, you're not working hard enough, you don't want this enough, you don't deserve it, you'll never make it. If a contradicting belief is in your conscious mind, it should be easier to identify it and thus release it. And I feel like the shit that society tells us, it's generally easier to identify, like the hustle culture example. Hopefully it's easier for us to identify like, okay, this isn't true, this is just what society is telling me and I don't have to believe this, and we can remove it without too much resistance. In that case, we shouldn't have too much of a hard time through repetition and through visualization of reinforming our subconscious mind. However, if the contradicting belief is subconscious, it might be a little bit harder to identify and remove. And I think the ones that are subconscious, like the subconscious limiting beliefs, more often than not, they stem from an earlier experience, like something that happened in our childhood. And often the root of that belief has been either forgotten, just because, you know, it was such a long time ago, or it could be suppressed if the memory that caused that limiting belief is very painful. So what can you do if you're not able to identify your limiting belief right away? How can you find it? One way is to pay attention to your initial gut reaction. So your like first instinctual thought when something seems to go wrong. So in the case of manifesting wealth or success, let's say somebody had a plan to generate wealth, like they had a business plan or they were gonna go to a job interview and it flopped. In that instance, it's totally normal to feel a pang of disappointment, right? But what is your mind telling you? Is it saying like, oh, this sucks, but let's try again, on to the next one? Or is it saying something like, I knew this was gonna happen, these things never work out, I should just give up? If you're thinking the latter, if you're thinking, I should just give up, this never works, I knew this was gonna happen, you can rebut yourself again. Ask yourself why. Why did you know this was gonna happen? You might get the answer right away, or you might need to go back and forth with yourself a bit and be like that annoying kid that asks, but why? But why?
Why? Why? Why? Why? Why?
Until you're able to weed out your limiting belief. I'll give you a real example with me. So I was trying to change something in my physical appearance with manifestation, and I had a lot of resistance. So when I thought about manifesting a change in my appearance, my first instinctual thought was like, how can you believe that? There's no way you can change your body just by your thoughts. Like, it doesn't work that way. So that was my first thought. But then later, I caught myself like thinking negatively about that part of my appearance. And I shit you not, my first instinctual thought was, stop thinking negatively about that part of you because you're gonna make it worse.
Wait a minute, hold on.
And so the interrogator went in and I was like, so you're telling me that you don't believe positive thought about your appearance can positively change your appearance, but you do believe that negative thought about your appearance can negatively change your appearance. And the other me said, yes. And I said, why? And that's how I learned that I subconsciously believe that the universe has a negative bias towards me. I genuinely believe, apparently, that the universe sees my thoughts and cherry picks the negative ones and only manifests those ones. So through that process of grilling myself a bit on why my inner narrative was saying that nonsense, I weeded out my limiting beliefs. And it's funny because what I discovered that I subconsciously believe about the universe, I do kind of think that it's a reflection of me. Like, I have a lot of positive things going for me in my life, but I do tend to cherry pick and focus on that one negative thing that is going wrong and define my experience based on that. Is this what they mean when they say as within, so without? I'm not high vibe all the time. I am figuring this out with you, so that's why I use myself as an example. Another common limiting belief that I think almost all of us have to some degree is that things will continue to happen as they always have. You know, for example, it's hard to believe that your soulmate is coming to you if you've never been in a relationship before and you've had really terrible luck with dating. It's like, what makes you think that this time would be any different? You might say to yourself, like, how can I have faith that I will meet the one if all of my experiences up until now have shown me the opposite? But the truth is that your past doesn't need to have any bearing on your future. This is just what our brain likes to tell us. And I think in a way, this is just our brain doing its job because it's recognizing patterns in the world around us and projecting those patterns into the future so that it feels like it can have an idea of what to expect. And I feel like from a survival standpoint, our brain probably wouldn't like things to be different or unexpected because that could mean danger. So I think it has like a preference or a tendency to just project the same pattern that we're used to over and over and over again. Also, in situations like this where we've been disappointed many times in the past, our ego does like to step in and try to protect us from further disappointment. Can't be disappointed if you didn't have hope in the first place. And these brain functions are completely normal and natural, so there's no need to demonize them. Like, there's no need for us to demonize our ego, but we just need to repeat to our brain that we are safe. We are safe to break the pattern, and we are safe to have hope. The third reason I want to talk about is avoiding pain. And this is one that I actually didn't realize until quite a while after I learned about manifestation. I used to think that if there was something in your subconscious blocking your manifestation, it was a limiting belief or a contradictory belief, something that was making you think that your manifestation couldn't happen. This idea of blocking a manifestation that you want to avoid pain. It's a relatively new idea for me, but it does make sense to me. Something that may be blocking your manifestation is your subconscious mind associating that thing or that experience with pain. It thinks that if you get or experience what you're wishing for, it will get hurt, and so it avoids it. I was reminded of this when I was reading this book that my friend wrote. It's about her twin flame journey. So there is a section of the book where she is describing her healing journey in detail. And one part that really stood out to me is when she's talking about the fact that she has always had trouble receiving. And as a reader, like as a reader of the book, not as a tarot reader, I assumed it was because of a limiting belief. Something like, oh, she doesn't feel worthy of receiving, or she has a lack mentality. But for Grace, that actually wasn't the case. Grace did believe that she deserved the best, but there was a deeper wound that was stopping her from receiving. So she had had repeated experiences with people who were sort of forcing help on her. Like, they were imposing themselves on her and saying, oh, you have this plan to start your business, you want to do this, I'll help you. Even though she wasn't asking for their help, they would impose it on her like this so that they could take advantage of her later and say, oh, well, I helped you out then, so you have to help me and do what I want you to do now. So they were creating this uncomfortable dynamic where throughout the whole exchange of giving and receiving, she had no say in it. She couldn't control what would happen when she received. She couldn't control what would happen when she gave. And so receiving didn't feel good because it put her in this trap where she was indebted to these people. So she subconsciously started to associate receiving with being out of control, with somebody else having the upper hand, and having to do things she didn't want to do. So she started to avoid receiving things in her life. Another example would be somebody who wants to manifest a romantic relationship, but it's not coming to her. Based on the theory of limiting beliefs, if she can't manifest a relationship, it's because she doesn't feel worthy of love, or it's because she doesn't love herself. But maybe that really doesn't resonate with her, because she certainly thinks that she's worthy of a good partner, and she certainly feels ready to be in a happy partnership. In this case, the answer might lie in a past hurt that has been deeply suppressed and that the subconscious mind doesn't want to repeat. And keep in mind, this doesn't have to be something that happened in the past with a romantic relationship. It could be like the experience of being bullied as a child and experiencing that rejection and abandonment. And so when your brain sees you trying to get into this intimate situation with another person, those red flags might go up and your brain might be trying to avoid that experience again. And sometimes our conscious mind can genuinely forget about these memories. But that doesn't mean that they're not there, and that doesn't mean that they're not still affecting us. I tried this for myself recently, and something came up from 10 years ago, like a memory that I had basically forgotten about or suppressed or whatever for 10 years. It came up for me and I started crying and I started hurting like it had just happened yesterday. So this process, it can be scary, it can be uncomfortable, but once you take out that old trash, it feels so good, it feels so freeing. So to release this pain associated with your memory, you need to heal the past version of yourself. You need to tell your past self that whatever happened wasn't their fault. Because your past self who is holding on to that pain, they could be very, very young and not know any better, or even have a skewed perspective of how things happened. So you tell them it wasn't their fault and it won't happen again because the current you is smarter and stronger and you will protect them. Maybe it sounds weird talking to yourself like that, but I swear it works and it's really comforting. The fourth reason I want to talk about is your personality. Another reason you may not have manifested your dream life yet is because you are not the person who is ready to live that dream life yet. Addressing this potential blockage is the one that takes the most introspection, in my opinion, because you have to be really honest with yourself. When you visualize yourself living your dream life, who is that person? What is their personality like? What are their habits like? What is their attitude like? It's important to ask yourself this because our lifestyle, our relationships, our accomplishments are all products of these things, products of our personality, of our habits, and of our attitude. So if this is resonating with you, before you go to bed or after you wake up, I want you to close your eyes and visualize yourself living your dream life. Get really specific. What do you do for a living? Are you successful? Who is around you? What are your relationships like with those people? How do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about your life? What does a day in your life look like? And once you've figured all of that out, turn your attention to the person who is living that life. So the future version of you who is living that life. Ask yourself what their personality is like, what their habits are like, and what their attitude is like. It might help if you actually write all of that down. And this is where you have to be very honest with yourself because you have to look at the person you are now and ask yourself if you really are these things that you just thought of, if you really are these things that you just wrote down. And then you'll have a more concrete idea of what is required from you to line up with these blessings that the universe has prepared for you. Do you need to start waking up earlier? Do you need to create or change a routine? Do you need to practice gratitude more often? To use myself as an example again, I am a terrible communicator. I'm getting better at it now because I have confronted myself about it, but in my previous romantic relationships, it was a mess. When something was bothering me, I would completely shut down. I thought that if someone was right for me, they should be able to just read my mind and know what I want or need from them at any given moment without me having to tell them. And I assumed that if this person wasn't meeting my needs, it was because they didn't want to, not because they didn't know. And I didn't want to have to tell them. So instead of telling them why I was upset, I would just stop talking to them. When I did my shadow work, I realized that this actually stems from a deep fear of asserting myself. It's like when I express my needs to my partner, I am implying that that need is valid. And I didn't want to imply that my needs were valid. But if they meet my need without me having to say anything, I don't have to imply that my needs are valid. They're the one implying that. It's them who is making that assertion. So I didn't want to be the one to say like, this is what I want and you should care. I didn't want to imply that someone else should care. And my instinctual thought regarding that was, it's laughable that you think someone else should care about your needs. I was too scared to express them myself, so I needed to have a perfect partner who knew what I needed 100% of the time and absolved the need for me to fix my own issues. Needless to say, this was a completely unfair expectation to have of a partner, or of anyone for that matter. And it set me up for a lot of disappointment in my previous relationships. But there I was, visualizing myself in a happy, healthy, romantic relationship and trying to manifest it. But the truth was that the universe could not deliver that visualization to me because I was not the person in that visualization. That person valued her own needs, and that person took responsibility to have her own needs met. That person communicated clearly with her partner and they worked through problems together. The universe could not give me what I was visualizing because as the person who I still was, in real life, there is no way that a relationship could play out in the way that I was visualizing. The universe's job is to give us our exact visualization, and if we're not ready to be the person in it, it will keep it safe for us. It will protect us from it until we are ready to live it out exactly in the way we have imagined. So if your manifestation isn't coming, put yourself in the shoes of the person who is living that life that you want. And ask yourself if you are really that person, because when you do become that person, you can step into the reality that the universe has prepared and is patiently keeping for you. So the fifth and final reason I want to talk about is that you are telling too many people, or you're telling the wrong people about what you're trying to manifest. I think you should keep this circle of who knows about your manifestations very small or very selective until you're 100% sure in yourself and 100% sure in the universe. Telling people about your manifestation can slow it down or block it. If those people are pessimistic, or they don't believe in you, or they don't believe in the universe in general, or even if they don't want to see you do well. This is because their beliefs now play a role in affecting the reality around you. I do think that this is true because our manifestations don't happen in a vacuum. We are all constantly influencing each other. Your thoughts are influencing me, and my thoughts are influencing you, and we are influencing everybody's manifestation, and everybody is influencing our manifestation. And when it comes to manifestation, the strongest focus or the strongest faith will win. It's like a staring contest. So if you are really strong in your faith, negative people cannot harm you. Negative people cannot get to you, so don't worry about that. But if you are feeling a little bit uncertain to begin with, or you're feeling a little bit doubtful in your manifestation to begin with, then having it reach the ears of pessimistic or malicious people, it can be a recipe for disaster. Because if your faith is not that strong to begin with, it could easily be taken down by their contradicting beliefs. But now imagine if you told a bunch of people who believe in you, a bunch of people who have really strong, beautiful, positive energy, and who love you and who want the best for you. That is going to be a huge boost in your manifestation. And if you guys are feeling a little bit uncertain or doubtful of your plans, or just doubtful of the universe, having these people around can be a really nice help, because it will affect your reality in a positive way, and you'll start to see the changes around you, start to become more confident little by little. If you're already super confident, even better. It never hurts to have reinforcement, and you can think of it like a strength in numbers. The more people who are rooting for you and believing in your plan, the more it solidifies into reality. So use this to your advantage and amplify your manifestation by telling the right people and staying away from the wrong people. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please do let me know if there are any other manifestation topics that you would like me to cover. Like I said in the beginning, I really do enjoy making this type of video, because as I'm kind of figuring out the script and what points I want to go over, it's a really good learning experience for me to visit or revisit different ideas. If you guys want any more resources to help you with manifesting in the meantime, I do want to recommend Joseph Ally's channel. This is hands down my favorite channel about manifestation. I just find he explains it in a way that is very systematic and easy to understand, and he provides you with different ways to really test it out yourself and to really see the proof for yourself. So I'm gonna end the video there. I hope you have a wonderful day or night whenever you're watching, and I wish you all the best. Please take good care of yourself, stay healthy, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check out my pick-a cards if you feel like doing that, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!